Hey! Welcome back to Satisfactory! Today, we're going to make aluminum plates.
Milestone reached. Quartz and bauxite scanning unlocked. A new generation of basic aluminum parts is now available, which can be constructed from bauxite after a complex process of refinement. Additionally, improved conveyor belts and lifts can now be constructed.
Okay. Bauxite. Scanned for it, didn't I? Bauxite. Bauxite, bauxite, bauxite. 2.2 kilometers. 2.6 kilometers. Addendum. Today, we're also gonna make some trains.
Milestone reached. A new set of buildings and vehicles needed for long-range transportation has been made available.
Nice. Alright, that looks pretty good. So we've got a station here, and I've named it, and we have a few freight platforms that we can unload things, pretty similar to how we did with the truck stop. For now, I've just named it Oasis Central, because that's where we are. That's what we're going to call this place, I guess. Eventually, we may need multiple train stops, but for now, that's fine. And I think we need something to ride along the track. Well, I can't quite seem to get the golf cart to work on the rail lines, so I suppose we're forced to use something else. Something like this, electric locomotive. And let's put a few freight cars on the back, I guess. And it's just a flatbed now, because we haven't loaded anything yet, I suppose. Insert choo-choo name here. And then we can add a timetable. So that's first stop, and then we'll change the second stop to Crystal Overlook, our next destination. Here we go. And here we are at Crystal Overlook. So let's take another sensor reading. Let's see how close we are to the bauxite now. Should be off in this direction. Next to our quartz, we've got 3 more quartz over there that we can make use of. 955 meters. All right, we've gotten closer, but we're still fairly far away. All right, let's try this again. Oh, we appear to have come to a stop. And we find ourselves in an icky, vile, poisonous swamp. Let's scan once again. Bauxite. Are you nearby, bauxite? Yeah, okay, it is. Right there. 400 meters right there, down in the center of this icky swamp. And the rail line is just stopped dead because we need to build a station somewhere, but we also have a whole bunch of machines to build and to organize. And I probably want to know how those buildings are going to get organized before I build the train stop. So what we'll do next, so that I know kind of the shape of the thing we're about to build, I'm going to set out some platforms and lay out all the machines that we're going to need for this little area. And then maybe we'll be able to figure out exactly where the train stop needs to be and where these machines need to be relative to that bauxite ore. Okie dokie, so these are all the machines that we are going to need to make some aluminum plates, and obviously this is a little bit more complicated than our previous basic items. Previously we would do a more or less two-step process, mine the stuff up, smelt it, and then turn it into something in a constructor. This has a few more steps, so let's go through the different steps just to get an idea of the flow of items, and let's actually go backwards. I find it's easier when we end up with one item that has a bunch of steps behind it to go backwards so that we can reverse engineer more or less, and we can start at the top of the pyramid. Aluminum sheets here, this is what we want to make, and it's going to take aluminum ingots and copper ingots. Copper ingots is super simple. We're going to smelt the copper ingots from copper ore in a smelter, and we'll have to find some copper ore somewhere. I haven't really thought about that or looked for it. I'm sure there's some nearby. It's sort of just everywhere on the map. The aluminum ingot is made in a foundry similar to the steel because it has two ingredients. So we need aluminum scrap and silica. Silica we're going to make from quartz. Up at our quartz overlook area, we've got some unused quartz ore nodes, and we're going to use those to make silica and then bring it down here via the trains. So we'll need an additional stop here. We'll need 2 stops. And then the aluminum scrap. The aluminum scrap will be made in these big refineries. And the aluminum scrap is made from an aluminum solution, a liquid, and petroleum coke. I really wish they would move this no power display. It blocks information when you're trying to figure stuff out. Petroleum coke we're already making at our oil area way over there where we're making plastic and rubber. We've been awesome sinking it to get rid of it, to keep our plastic and rubber from shutting down. And now we're going to bring it over here. So that's taken care of. Silica and coke, 2 byproducts we're going to bring in via train to help out making some aluminum. So we do need some alumina solution, and it also has a fluid output of water, which we're going to cycle back around to that next step, the first step. We are going to circulate that water back around to this step where that solution is made. That solution is made from bauxite. Oh, the ore. We finally made it back to the beginning. The bauxite ore nodes are right over there. So this will be the step right next to them, and they are going to have that fluid output. They're also going to have a silica output, which is not enough to fuel that step over here where we needed the silica to make the thing. Are you keeping up? Okay, so the silica is needed here, but the silica produced in that step is not enough. So in order to keep our process from ever shutting down from one of the belts being too full, what we're going to do, we're just going to awesome sink all of the silica. And we're going to bring in pure silica from our quartz nodes up there so that nothing ever gets jammed. We are also going to need some water. We have some water in this secondary step. Are you keeping up? I know it's complicated. That step is going to have water cycle around. It's also not enough. So we're going to need some water extractors from this goopy lake. Oh, there they are, right there. Yeah, that is a goopy, nasty swamp, and looks like it also has the poison mist, so we'll need our gas mask if we're going to go down there. What I'm thinking of doing is placing the factory more or less right above these ore nodes, above the swamp. So we're going to need to pump the liquids up a little bit with some vertical pipes with some pumps attached to them. And we are going to need some water extractors. Yeah, I was sort of curious about this. It looks like the water in the swamp is not deep enough for the water extractors. Well, I think I found another side effect of building in the poison swamp. And it's a gigantic spider creature. So, fast forward several hours and the build is done. It is ready to get hooked up and to see if everything works. We got 2 different train stops and we need to set up the trains as well. I haven't done any of the cosmetic work, so we just have this big floating slab with some machines on it kind of thing and a little bit of stuff underneath. I really do dislike the giant floating slab with machines on it look in this game. Really grinds my gears. So, I will eventually update that, but we should make sure that the thing works. Before we really plug anything in, though, we are missing a few things. We need to bring in the silica and the coke from our quartz area, which is up there where we were a little bit earlier. So, this train stop up here has 2 different freight station and 2 different freight cars, and one of them is going to have silica and the other one's going to have coke. Down here at the other quartz patches, I set up a silica area, and it's pretty simple. We're mining it up just like any other thing, and we're running them through constructors, which turns it into a new thing, which is silica. This is just like a number of other builds we've made where we're splitting the stuff, going through the machines, and then merging it back together, and then it goes out the building right there. That's what it looks like. So all we got to do for this guy is just connect the belt, and he is good to go to load into that freight car right there. For the coke, we got to actually bring it in from our oil area, and that's going to need delivery via truck. So we're going to have like a multi-step process of delivery. If we run over this ridge here, we will be just above our oil area, and then we can put a truck down and drive it up here. So now we're over here at the oil outpost where we've been making plastic and rubber, and it gets taken over to the main base by the tractors. There's a tractor right there driving through the pass in the mountainside. And as a byproduct of those 2 things, we've been making coke and sending it into an awesome sink so our production doesn't jam up and stop working. But now we need the coke, so we're going to send it up to the train stop up there via a truck through the mountainside via truck stop. So we got to drive that guy up there and record a loop. Let me just make sure that we got loaded up. We're in the right spot underneath. It's fairly generous, but doesn't hurt to check. We got to hit the V. We got to start recording and then drive around in a loop. And I got to drive through this poison mist there, which is a problem for me, but not for the truck. So it doesn't matter if I take a little bit of damage, but it looks like I didn't take any. The terrain is pretty uneven for this part, but it'll smooth out in a second. Oh, there's a big cave there. Look at that guy. Might have to explore that at some point. Alright, so once we get up to this hill, we are going to need to take a super sharp turn left. It would have been, I guess, more direct to build a big ramp and to just drive straight to the outpost, but I prefer doing it this way. I think this is a little bit nicer. We gotta go, I think, through these guys. It's a very sharp turn, and then we just follow this, and this should open up. Yep, okay, nice. Here we are. We are here. Oh, sorry, guys. Oh, I ran them over. Oh, unfortunate. I didn't see them there. So the next part, we just drive in a little half circle, get to the stop, let the stuff unload. I already did 1 trip to practice the route, because it is a little tricky trying to see where we're going amongst all the foliage there. Stop here, wait for the unloading to finish. In fact, I'll give it, I'll just wait here for a minute. Okay, that's long enough. And then we head back, we complete the route, and then the truck does it on its own after that. So with that truck set up, our train is now ready to depart the station. We've got the coke on this freight platform and the silica on that freight platform. As soon as I turn on the autopilot, it should go to the stop and it should dock and load up. Let's go ahead and turn that on, and then we will just ride it back down the hill after it loads up. This is actually my first time loading up a train ever in the game, so I'm kind of curious. Oh, okay, cool. That's interesting. We're just going to manufacture an entire train car out of thin air. And plop it on down. Kind of like the tractor and the truck, but a little bit bigger, obviously. And I guess that's it. I'm not touching anything. We've got the autopilot on. We should take off in just a second. And away we go. And just like that, train delivery. I wonder if those cargo containers, maybe they get teleported back to the other train stop, because we're not taking them back via train. Anyway, we got our objects on the belts. The silica goes up there, and the coke goes on a belt over there to a refinery there, and a refinery on the other end. Let's start plugging stuff in. So, the water extractors, as well as the copper ore that we're going to use, is right over here. This is what it looks like. And I'm going to plug it in from a distance. I also have a few pumps right there. I'm not sure if we will need pumps for this long stretch of pipe here. I don't know if there will be a throughput issue with such a long pipe. We'll just see. If there is, then I'll add them. If not, then I won't. We need to find this guy right here, and he needs to connect up to that power pole. And then we'll see those guys chugging along. See a little spike in our power. Let's just go check to make sure that this section is working, and we might get a little bit of poison here, because there is some poison vapor right here from those guys, those rocks. Yep, okay. Looks like that's working. That's simple enough. Next, we'll turn on the rest of the stuff down here, the different drills, as well as the awesome sink, where we're going to get rid of the silica that's not coming from our quartz area. The silica that's a byproduct of the aluminum. So that we don't have to worry about the system ever jamming up because it can't get rid of one thing or another. Alright, there's our bauxite on the belts. We actually need a tier 5 belt for this because we have so much bauxite we want to move down the initial belt. But in order to make a tier 5 belt, we need aluminum plates. So I have to come back by and replace some of these belts with tier 5s once we get some of the aluminum actually made. So the bauxite gets lifted up right below the refineries, gets split up and sent to each one, and then the water also gets added to these refineries. They get combined and turned into alumina solution. We have that, and we have the silica. The silica gets lifted back down and gets sent over to that awesome sink. Or item sink, rather. That seems to be working. Okay, next step. The alumina solution goes around the corner. It ends up in this refinery on the end, and also in the one on the other end, the other far end. And that gets turned into aluminum scrap. And that is working. That gets put on a belt. And here we go, aluminum scrap. This is another one of the ones I think, I'm going to have to check my notes, but there's a few spots where we have to upgrade belts to tier 5. This might be one of them, because we end up with a lot of this stuff. This thing is outputting, yeah, 360 per minute, as well as the other one, so 720 aluminum scrap per minute. We need a tier 5 belt for that. Once we get the aluminum plates, that runs down here, gets lifted up, gets split up amongst some of these foundries, I guess they're called. And in the foundry, we get the aluminum scrap and the silica from our outposts, which are making aluminum ingots. That part is working. Here's where the copper ends up, right here. And that's making copper ingots. Let me fly up for a vantage. So the copper ingots are made right there. Aluminum ingots are made right there. I'm going to crash. Bam, out of fuel. They both run down the line here into these assemblers. And out pops aluminum plates. We have aluminum plates. Hooray, it's our first aluminum plates. They look just like the plastic. They're stacked in similar sheets with little rubber bands around them or whatever. Awesome. It works, though. Good news is the base works. The system works. The factory works. We have aluminum plates. which means we can now do tier 5 belts, and I gotta land before I crash again. We can do tier 5 belts and a number of other things. Alright, well, the base is operational. We still need to do a cosmetic pass to make it look awesome, and I need to upgrade some of the belts to tier 5 with our aluminum plates, but for now, let's just set up the last train system and make sure that everything works correctly. Swamp Aluminum, which is where we are, to Oasis Central. That's it. That's very simple. You don't add, like, waiting times or anything like that, or conditions. The little freight platforms themselves tell the train what to do, to load or unload, and that's all there is to it. Fairly simple. The trains don't even have collision boxes. You can see I'm using one rail for the whole system because they just pass right through each other. That's the way the game works right now, so that's the way I'm playing. A little bit weird, but that's the way it works. I'm assuming eventually, at some point in the future, that'll get updated. But for now, that's the way it is. And since I've been editing these train routes for this video, for the last one, let's just do the whole thing unedited. So you can see just how far we're traveling to get this aluminum, which was such a big process to produce all the way back to our starter base. Next episode, we will update the look of that thing and upgrade all the belts to tier 5 that need that and that kind of stuff. And it'll also be the last episode for the starter base. We're going to finish up the starter base, clean up any scaffolding that's left, create the rest of the storage for all the different storage stuff we want. And then after that, we'll begin planning the mega base for Satisfactory, where we go for the very expensive statues in the Awesome Shop, which are going to be, that's going to be quite an endeavor. Getting the one that costs 1,000 tickets. Every ticket you take out of the machine makes the next one harder to get. So getting to that last one will take a big base. Alright, and we are nearly here. Seems to be working just fine. I haven't hooked up any belts to take the aluminum into the base, so for now I'll probably just snag it out of this container until we set up something else. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I think we're done. We did a lot today. Well, it's been today for you, but for me it's been more than a day. That's it for the episode. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.